What's up? What's up? It's your girl Angelica Marie, and we're back with another episode of Ain't No Filter. And today we got Leon in the building. Well, through Zoom, you know what I'm saying? May the forces be with us of technology. And we are talking about PR, being publicists. We talk about the people behind the scenes that y'all just don't know behind the scenes that be getting stuff done and who be having all the real tea that we don't be knowing, that they really can't spill, but we be wanting to know. They be having the real story, not the half story. They got the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Introduce yourselves. Let us know what you're about, where you're from. Give us some background.
Cool. So, well, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Leon Valentine. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. Currently living in D.C., but I'm a publicist, and I've been a publicist freelance for about 4 years now. Been in the industry for like a decade, to be honest, but I've been
Oh,
freelance, for like 4 years. So I work with right now Selena Johnson, who is a singer who's on R&B Divas and currently on Fox Soul, as well as an athlete as well. And I pretty much specialize in pitching in media, media training. A lot of people don't know that as well. We'll get into that. And then like overall just brand development. So
period. You said over a decade. So I know that you also went to CAU,
mhm.
Clark Atlanta University. So with going to CAU, we always spoke, but I never knew what you studied. Did you actually study mass media or did you study something else?
Yeah, I was PR at Clark Atlanta. A lot of people don't know that. I was
People
PR.
PR, the reason why nobody ever knows who is PR is because y'all be hidden somewhere. I feel like that's because y'all writing has to be like A1. Y'all be hidden somewhere in the globe. Like, I feel like y'all somewhere always typing something. That's probably why we never know who really is PR.
Yeah, like I was in PR. So what I meant by what I've been in it for a decade, like most people who usually go to college and try to get internships and stuff, I kind of in a way kind of lucked up because believe it or not, my first internship, crazy enough, was with Selena. A lot of people don't know. I actually spilled coffee on her sister 3 weeks going into Clark Atlanta, literally at Lennox. I was trying to buy some clothes and I accidentally bumped into her and spilled coffee on her. Well, by way of me getting cussed out in that moment, I was like wiping her up and stuff like that, helping her like wipe up and everything. And we ended up just talking. And she was like, well, why are you running through the mall? Her sister, why are you running through the mall anyway? Like, why are you running like you got your hair cut off? I'm like, well, I'm trying to buy some clothes. I just moved down here for college. And she's like, what are you trying to go to school for? At the time, I said I want to do management. But she was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you my card or whatever. Just call me tomorrow and then we'll talk about it, whatever, like that. Because I'm young, because I was young. So I spoke to her. At the time, I didn't have a resume. Your freshman year, you think you're killing it from high school. So you send them like this resume that you thought was just so good. And she was like, okay, this is terrible. But I want you to, and at the time I didn't know it was her sister who was her manager. So she was like, I want you to come to this video shoot in Atlanta on Saturday, and I want you to try to work for me. And I said, well, how long do I need to be there? She said, just, we'll see if, we'll kind of test your personality, kind of see if you're a good fit, and we'll work with you. At the time, I didn't know it was Selena. So when I got to this studio set, she was coming out. She just did a joint album with Music Soul Child, a reggae album. And she was on R&B Divas at the time. And then when I walked in, of course I knew who she was because my mother listened to her growing up. So I knew who she was. So when I walked in the room, I'm like, I didn't know that you work with her. She's like, well, yeah, this is my sister. This is who I manage. So literally like week 3 at Clark Atlanta, I started out as an intern. And what a lot of people don't know, outside of Selena, I actually worked for the NFL Alumni Association. So I was working with a lot of those older athletes who were like in their 40s and 50s and already retired Hall of Famers. What most people don't know, I was already 18, 19 doing media coaching for them as an intern, literally. So I've been in the industry for it'll be 10 years now, but I've had experience for years most people don't even know about.
Wow, that's dope. Congratulations. Like, first of all, that's one of them stories right there. That's one of them stories. Well, shoot. Not something turned into a blessing in disguise. Come on
Yeah.
now. And with that, I know that you're stating that you're working with more so like athletes and artists. Do you do like corporate? I know you've also done like some of the different queens and pageants
Mm-hmm.
PR. So do you work with corporations? Or are you strictly like personalities, artists?
So for me now, believe it or not, I really didn't want to actually go into entertainment. When I was at Clark Atlanta, I always told myself I wanted to go into corporate PR. It just didn't happen because I guess at the time I just didn't get a job in corporate PR. But I told myself at one point I didn't want to do it. Now that I've done freelance, I kind of want to get back into it because let's be honest, that's really where the money is. I'm gonna be real, completely honest with you. Like entertainment PR is cool, like working like in. I mean, I work with the organization Miss Black USA, but like the real money really is corporate. You know, that's where you get the big money, and those are the people, believe it or not, those are people that are really behind the scenes that you really don't know. Like they making six-figure deals. They in their early 20s making 6-7 figures. You don't even hear about them because they're working for like these big firms, these big tech firms and corporations that you don't really know about these people because they're not trying to be on social media. It's like, I got my money. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be bothered. It's like, you know, so I don't work with them now. Well, I can't even say now because I haven't unleashed it yet, but that's a goal of mine within the next year to kind of focus more on organizations and corporations than just regular celebrities and talent.
And for those who aren't really familiar, because I just realized that people really don't know what PR is. Can you go ahead and kind of explain what PR is? I understand why people don't, but who knows? You might be inspiring a young person to pursue that career field, and then educating these folk who be thinking they be knowing stuff because they got access to some of these little outlets on social media. But let us know what PR really is. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? What is your like job?
Okay, so I'll break it to you like this. So PR. So there are a lot of people who think they have an idea what PR is, but they really don't. Honestly, people really don't know. They usually think, oh, this person that's working with a celebrity or athlete, they're working on the red carpet, they're working on like behind the scenes stuff. But PR historically has been behind the scenes. I would say, really, if I could put it in layman's terms, it's really strategy. It's really, of course, it's communications, but it's ultimately strategy and what you're doing to help a person either sustain their image or to build their image and their brand. So for me, I have a different type of niche because most people, when they see me, people know me now as being really, really well in the media pitching aspect of PR. Like I'm known, or I guess I'm getting known from my PR colleagues or just in general for getting big placement. But there's so many facets of PR and different umbrellas. You can do media training, which I do behind the scenes for athletes people don't know about. Like you can do brand development, you can do social media management. There's so many things that fall into the umbrella of PR, which is why it's kind of hard to really get a main consensus of what it is. But I can tell you that it's really ultimately strategy. So a normal day for me isn't really a normal day because for me, literally, it can be from on Monday morning, I could be in DC, and by Friday, I probably have to go to Atlanta or go to Miami. It depends on what my client is. Usually my days start at about probably 4 a.m., 5 a.m. on average. And every publicist I can tell you now is different. I just know how I am because I don't work with a big agency. So I don't have a media, and I'm not to knock anybody, but I don't have a big media list that's hand down to me. I don't work with like these big networks who automatically have media and press. So my day starts really, really early, drafting up pitches, crafting them, building out my media list and sending them out. And most, if you're in the industry or communications industry or like pitching to people, usually most editors or show producers and stuff, they're usually up by 4 or 5 a.m. This is a gem for anyone that wants to get into PR or for that wants to get into like, even you, like if you want to pitch an outlet or something, or you want to like get a column or something, usually most journalists are up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning because they have their deadlines around 7:15, 7:30. Most people don't know that. So
let us know.
I'm usually up at 4 or 5 a.m. sending out emails and stuff. Then from there, it may be anything from negotiating a photo shoot. It can be from anything from media training or working with the artist or the talent to getting them prepared for an interview, or just overall with the logistics of anything they have coming up. So right now I'm working outside of that. I'm working on a virtual concert. And then on top of that, I'm working with an athlete. He wants to do a mental health awareness, kind of like a field day. He's from Chicago, but he lives overseas playing basketball, but he wants to do something in Chicago. So it just depends. So it's never the same day, honestly, for me working in PR. Everything usually is different.
That's so dope. That's really dope. And I know that with freelancing, like you said, you know, you have to access some of your resources a little different. Mm-hmm. How were you able to build your clientele? And you know, some people work on like retainers. How do you operate your business? Because I do understand that you also have your own company. You're not just the one standing person. You have started the umbrella of the pitch guy. So how do you operate with that?
Well, I'll say this. So believe it or not, in PR, and I can be completely transparent with you, especially as a Black publicist, it's really hard sometimes to gauge what your price point is. I didn't have a mentor in PR when I first graduated from college. So I did well when I first graduated from Atlanta, but I didn't have that person to tell me this is what you're supposed to charge. This is what you're supposed to, like, these are your rates as a publicist. Like, I didn't have that. So believe it or not, there are a lot of people I work with who I probably never promoted that people know on TV right now that a good smile, and because you're young and because you want to prove yourself, you work and you work and you work, but you're not paid for it. I'm about to sound crazy, but I didn't even know you're supposed to get paid for PR I didn't. I'll be real. I didn't know that you were supposed to get as much money. My rates now are completely different from 4 or 5 years ago. When I first started out working in PR, I maybe was, believe it or not, charging people not even $200, $300. And which is, in PR is crazy because it's like you're ultimately giving people your intellectual property. I mean, I can tell you media alone, if you pitch for a morning show, on average, that's about a $700 value, you know? And at that time, when I first graduated, I probably have gotten, if not all of the morning shows across the nation. So you imagine just one, I've gotten at least 20 to 30 in a year, not even just like 40 in 1 year, me being freelance. But I didn't know that. So it's hard sometimes as a publicist, or when you're first starting up in the game, if you don't have the mentorship in the backing to know what your price points are. For me, you know, it's something that I really teach, not even just in PR, but just like in business. I didn't know those things. So when you're coming into the industry and you want to be freelancer, you want to work for yourself, if you don't have that example of someone that you can go to, you're kind of just, people will take advantage. So for me now, being a freelance person has been interesting because, like I told you, I didn't get these big lists, media lists. I didn't get someone to say, oh, I have this contact. Let me get this to you. And I think that's what makes me, I don't gonna say it makes me special, but a lot of people in the industry kind of respect me because I really find every person I've ever got on the outlet, I found on my own. You know, like I literally would call a studio, like I would call the news station. I would go up sometimes, if it being in DC, I would go up there and I would ask who the show producer is, who this person is. Like I don't really get things handed to me, even now. 4 years in freelance and with my own agency, I don't get things freelance. I don't get things handed to me. So I had to really work, make a lot of phone calls, make a lot of connections, and really have to pitch and pitch and pitch, even when people tell me no. I get a lot of no's. Even though I'm doing successful now, even now I still get a lot of no's. So the moral of, you know, with that, you know, being in PR is just how I base my pricing now is just based off of experience. It's based off of time, and it's just based off of what I feel like, you know, I deserve ultimately, you know.
How would you tell somebody that's trying to get, okay, so I also do film, right?
Okay.
And you know, directing, producing, and so many people will sit back and think that we're supposed to do stuff for free just because my name isn't on a Chris Brown video or somebody who's like this super established artist, which, given everything is different, you're paying for equipment out your pocket, like certain stuff just isn't feasible. Where do you, for you all's industry, where do y'all say, because you said you were doing stuff for free initially?
Oh, for years, yeah.
So when do you do the cutoff? Because at the end of the day, let's just put it in this perspective. I can't say on your personal background, but we do know that 9 times out of 10, our white counterparts are usually a little ahead of us. And that's usually a lot of times within the financial department as well. So we already know it's either time or money. So like you know, you can only do so much stuff for free and it's still taking your time. So where do you cut it off at? Like, how do you build that?
Well, for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. I probably a little bit before the pandemic, I stopped doing stuff for free. And the reason why I stopped doing stuff for free was because, crazy enough about it, it's the people that want stuff for free that will give you the most problems. I I have the people that's paying now, they literally pay on time. They don't give me no problems. There's never no, oh, where do I send the money at? I don't have none of them problems. It's literally, okay, this is your retainer. This is what you want. It's to the point where a client of mine was like, I'm going to pay you more now. I'm going to up your budget because you work hard for it. Whereas starting out in the beginning, like, I'm going to be so real with you. I was doing PR for people and I never promoted on social media, but I was doing media training for people who my phone was off, literally praying to God that when I called these interview people that my phone would not cut off or disconnect, you know, while I'm working PR. mind you, these are athletes who are making six-figure, literally making good money. And I'm broke, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I really believed in the dream at one point of being freelance and not working for nobody, but I was broke. And I wasn't, and I, and I was just based off the name of, well, if people found out I worked for this person, if I did PR for this person, my name would be out there, or eventually, and we always think it, oh, I work with this person, they're gonna put me on, and they're going, really, and it was none of that. And it was
don't even say thank you.
No, thank you. No shout out on social media, no nothing.
Can't even tag you. Take 5 seconds to tag you.
You can't even tag, you can't even say, oh, this is my publicist, this person's been helping me with this. It was nothing. It was just like, okay, well, you did that, whatever. Like, okay, I'll just talk to you Monday. There was nothing, none of that. And for me, and that was, to me, was the pivotal moment that told me, okay, I need to start charging, because there's no excuse why I don't have any money, but I just helped you raise and get over like $60,000 in like 5 months. There's no way possible. Like, it just doesn't make no sense. And for me, I asked him, I was having a conversation with him. I was telling him like, oh, I think I want to renegotiate my price and I want to start getting paid. I told him I don't want to break the bank, but I do want to get compensated. And he was like, oh, well, this is a great opportunity. Like, why would you want to, forgive that? Why would you want to do that? I mean, there's other PR people right now that would love to do this. Kind of almost backing me against a wall. So from there, it just taught me a valuable lesson. I don't work for free anymore, period. Like, if there are people, even right now, that come to me, celebrities, that come to me and tell me, oh, well, if you work with me, you'll do this and this, you'll work for free, I'll make sure I mention you. And I'm like, I can't live off of social currency. I can't. Like,
okay.
None of us can live off social currency. You can't live off, like, as though we're living our dreams, you want to do stuff, I still got a phone bill due. I still got to live. I still got to eat and travel and do all that stuff. So I think for me, if I can give any advice to anyone, I would tell them the deciding moment to decide, when do you do the cutoff for not doing free work anymore? If you're not going to do free work anymore, I would say at least have a contract, and at least have some barter to where it says, if you're not going to do work, if I'm going to do free work, I better at least be posted at least 3 to 4 times while I'm doing this project. You better go live and do a video post of me saying how good of a job I did, or you'd be like, I need to have some return of investment. It can't be that. So that's the best. And I didn't learn that starting out. That's something that I would do like now. Like, if someone came to me and I felt like it was a benefit and say, I don't got the budget right now, I mean, I'll pay you if I get something, I would have a contract and I would say, okay, you may not pay me physically right now, but please believe, if I'm going to work with you, you're going to post me. And then on top of that, you're going to refer me to people that's famous or that's relevant or that's influential, just like you, to work with them.
And you better not tell them I did your stuff for free.
Literally.
Tell them something else that, they'll discuss their race with you. Because that's the other thing. People be like, oh, well, so-and-so did it for free. So, she probably, no, bro, it can't work like that. And then it's like, it be the people who like, all right, I know everybody be like, man, don't count people's pockets. Don't count. But no, we know, you got money. Like, at the end of the day, if you got bills, I got bills too. So why you think I could do something for free if I'm doing stuff for you around the clock? How could I do something free for you? Like, I
think it's the industry. I think it's us as a people. When you think about it, like Black people, I'm not gonna say Black people, but in our culture, like, just because we're in entertainment, it's taught to, like, you gotta kind of struggle to get on type of thing.
And I don't like that.
That's just indoctrinated in our culture. Like, in our industry, it's like the people from the 80s and 90s, they had to go through that, not having no food and no money and having to really go to state broke doing it. And it's almost like this, oh, well, if I had to go through that, you got to go through the same thing too. And it's like, no, you can pay me. I'm going to be honest with you. I got the first, like, my biggest check that I ever got in PR. It was from a white woman, actually. It wasn't even from someone that was Black. And I never posted it. I worked for her. She acquired a magazine, and I was helping her with some PR consulting stuff and everything. And I wasn't her publicist, but I was just helping her at the time. And she literally, I knew it was going to be some money because I had to send a form. And it was like it was a big, pretty much, if you're going to get some money, it's a form you got to fill out to send over back to them. And she asked me to fill the form out. She kept telling me, I need you to do this as soon as possible, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it when I get home. She's like, I know what you do. I need you to do this now. Sent it over to her, and she wired me the money. And when she wired it to me, I'm like, this has to be a mistake. It has to be a mistake, because I did not expect that. And she was like, well, no, I'm going to pay you because I don't believe in just taking advantage of people. This is your intellectual property. People don't understand. I'm a big energy person. Mm-hmm. So this is energy that you're giving to the world. Like, me just doing media, doing PR, so much more than that. I'm giving you strategy. Like, I'm giving you opportunity. I'm actually helping to, and I don't want to use her as an example, but me working with Selena, like when I got her on Wendy Williams, that was a pivotal moment for me and for her, because she's never been on like a national daytime talk show. And as someone who came out in 2000, and I'm not going to say she's not a Beyonce. However, I will say like that was a pivotal moment for her, because there aren't many singers that came out in her generation that's on TV right now, on daytime TV.
No, I definitely agree. Like, one, I'm from the Midwest, so Selena Johnson is part of, like, it's just the Selena Johnson is Selena Johnson, and it's like I just think she is a staple, a part of R&B, and you can't forget that. And getting that big placement for Wendy Williams, like people can say what they want about Wendy, but you know what you're going into. She ain't never said she was something else other than what she is.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you even like one, how were you able to navigate getting that placement? And then also how did you like help prepare Selena for that?
Okay, so I'll say this. So Wendy Williams, I could be honest and tell you, I actually was scared to do the picture from Wendy Williams, because I had never at the time, that was my first national placement like that. Mm-hmm. I've gotten like big stuff, Today Show and stuff, but that was like actual physical interview. That was the first. So when she told me, I'm coming out with the Unsung, and the great thing I like about her is she really pushes me to do better. So at one point it was like, okay, I need you to try to give me morning shows or give me some podcasts. Now I was like, okay, now you've done well in this. I want you to push you and challenge you to get some like a magazine. Like she really gives me like goals. So it's not just okay, whatever Publicist works, see what you can get me. It's like no, I want to help. Because ultimately I was her intern at first. Mm-hmm. So it's a different dynamic, so she's like, I want you to push you to try to get this. So, I'm like, well, I don't think I'm gonna get it. Cause at the time I'm thinking, and what most people don't understand is too, Angelica, is that if you don't work for a big agency, it's really hard to get features like that. Like if you don't work for like a big PR firm or like a network, they kind of delete your stuff out their spam. I'm gonna be real with you. Like if you don't work for like a big firm, or you're not really a well-known publicist, or you don't have these big clientels, it's like, who is that? Like, it really is kind of like that. And which made me intimidated because I know how the media works. So, I pitched her. I actually got another talk show, but I ended up shifting it in June, but that was supposed to happen the same time, and that'll be released soon. But I was scared to do it. So when I finally did it, I redid the pitch and everything. They responded to me back in like maybe 2 or 3 days. And they were like, we want to have her on the show. We really like her. We see what she's doing on Fox. The original, which they wanted to talk about, wasn't what they eventually talked about on the show. But it was a pivotal moment for me because, and I can talk about it, is what it is. The network who hosts the, what they were talking about on Wendy Williams, she has an Unsung episode or whatever. Mm-hmm. They were trying to get some of their people on the show as well, but it wasn't as successful. So, it was good for me because I'm just this normal kid that don't nobody know about. I'm just a normal publicist, but I was able to get a national talk show, and I prepared her for it. I did a lot of media training. We did a lot of media training because Wendy, what people don't know is she doesn't look like it on TV. Like you think like mess and like gossip, mm-hmm. But she's very thorough when it comes to like information and knowing stuff and being like. We had to do like 3 or 4 or 5 pre-screen interviews. We actually had to talk to Wendy first on the phone before we even came in New York. Like she's very, and she has a journalistic background. So she's very like, if I sit down with you, I need to know everything I need to know about you because she doesn't have bad quality interviews. She may have her shit with her. I'm not gonna lie to you. She may. But I will say like it made me get a whole new respect for her. Like me seeing her and meeting her in New York and like even speaking with her before the interview back when I was at home before we went to New York, she don't play. Like her team, they be on it. Like they brought stuff up that I didn't even know about Selena, about DMX. I never knew that.
Yeah, and it's like I had to, when I was watching the clip, I went back and played the DMX song, and I was like, well, look at that.
I never knew that. Yeah, that was interesting. And I even told her, I said, I never knew you. She was like, yeah, that was, she said, yeah, they did their homework because a lot of people don't really know about that. So it just goes to show you, like, they're really, it really was a great moment. And I prepared for her. We did a lot of media training. And she was nervous because it is Wendy. Let's be real. We know how that go. Like, yeah, it really can be hit or miss. And, while I was backstage, I'm like, oh God, this can go many different ways. But ultimately it was a blessing because I really feel like Wendy respected her. I felt like it was a very gracious interview. It wasn't like drama filled. It wasn't messy or nothing like that. Sad to say, the next day that's when Jocelyn went viral. But like, you know, it wasn't that interview. It was very respectful. It was very like, I'm a respected legend, and I appreciated that. So
I mean, I can definitely see, because I was watching, I watched it as well and everything. And I was just like, okay, Selena, shout outs to y'all. Like, y'all did that, because if you are familiar with Selena Johnson's music, of course, she did a lot of work with R. Kelly. So that's always gonna be a topic that's gonna always be brought in because of everything that's surrounding him. And when he brought up the question, I thought Selena handled her answer very well, just knowing R. Kelly's past history, as far as the abuse that he went through and stuff. So I thought she handled that question very well, because I mean, we all know people in different capacities. So it was like you said, that was a thorough interview. I was like, and that's the thing, like you said, how Jocelyn handled it, which Jocelyn is Jocelyn. So of course she was going to handle it. She didn't show us no different than the personality that we've been seeing. So it's kind of like, I mean, you can't really,
Yeah.
But even with you pitching to the outlet, because okay, so did you do that via email? Like, because let me know, because I be thinking emails be going to the spam, they be overlooking them.
So yeah, it was email. It was email. So here's the thing, and I could tell people this all the time, and not even just, I'm gonna give some people some real gems, and not even just like PR, just like in just media anyway. Even you being in like film, and you want to potentially like connect with certain people and like try to get out there more. Me being in PR, I've learned there is no, if they have an inbox, there's a way that you need to be communicating with them. There are some people in PR who tell you, oh, I would never send anyone an Instagram DM to try to get an interview. I would never do that. And I'm like, bullshit. I've gotten some of the big interviews. I'm gonna be real with you. I got an UGG placement for a client of mine through Instagram DM. Literally. I literally messaged this woman, and she, but I came correct with her. But eventually it was through Instagram DM, and we ended up changing through email, but it was through Instagram. I've gotten stuff through LinkedIn. I mean, I do the traditional email to be respectful and to be professional, but I feel like if a platform was made with an inbox, ultimately there's a way to communicate. You just have to know how to do it. Email is outdated, but however, circling back, I tell anyone, there's a way that you can communicate with people. Mm-hmm. Don't get intimidated. Like, people's stuff do go to spam, and I can actually teach you a way to actually find out if it went to spam or not. I have an app called Re-Notify, so I can teach you how to, like, it's only $15 a month. All you got, it literally will tell you if they opened your email, what time and what day. I can hit you to some stuff, but
I need that, because I'm waiting on something. I'm just like, just tell me no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could like. So the good thing with me being in PR, I had to find it out, because I'm like, I'm sending all these emails. I know y'all seen my shit.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I got the Re-Notify thing on my email. So when I send it out, it literally will tell me if they looked at it, if they opened it, where they read it at. Oh, it gives me a lot of info. And me being in this industry, I need to know, because I'm like, if you read my shit, I'm gonna send it again if you don't respond to it. So, it's one of them things. Email, most people will say it's outdated, but I think it's how you come to people, right? So usually with me having a background in PR, I'm a little bit different. I'm not just going to send a traditional email, depending on if I'm pitching like a Wendy or like a partnership or something like that. It just depends. I wouldn't send too many photos or videos and things like that. I would send them if I were, matter of fact, I'll give you an example. If I were you, and say, for example, you want to potentially reach out to like a Lena Waithe or like a Tyler Perry or Will Packer, any of those people, you want to intern with them or something like that. Mm-hmm. Outside of just sending a traditional email, I would make sure that I send a press kit to them, or like a media kit. I make sure it's as professional as possible. Because it's all about your communication strategy and how you talk to people through email. So don't just send like a, hi, my name is this, and this. I would love to speak with you, and just end it. You have to give people what they want. So sometimes it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. So outside of saying, I want to speak with you, tell them, do you have dates on this day, and this day, at this time, and this time? Be a little bit more direct, because a lot of times what you'll learn is people may want to speak with you, but if it's so open-ended, it's like, I'll get back to them. And I know how people's assistants work. A lot of times people's assistants be reading these emails, and they're not really direct. So you just have to be a little bit more direct and a little bit more clear. So,
No, that assistant stuff is no joke. I will never forget it. I ain't even gonna say the director, but I met this director. He was like, I told him everything that I was trying to do. This was years ago. And he was like, oh, that's beautiful. I'm all for it. He was like, exchange numbers with my assistant. I exchanged numbers with the assistant, let her know when I was going to be in town. And I to this day, I feel like she was hating. I feel like
And they
she was
do,
hating.
trust me, them assistants, they be hating. They really do. They don't want, they take it to heart. Like, I don't want you to speak to this person. They take it to heart.
And I really feel like she was hating because I feel like I know that some people use the assistant route to level up to their goal and stuff, and I feel like she was hating, but I'll never know. Also, that director probably looking like, well, she wasn't serious. No, I was. Your assistant probably never passed any information on to you, but I'll spend
Probably didn't.
So, but no, I just think that's really interesting. Like you even said, like how formatting emails. Though you kind of worked with clients that are bigger names and have like bigger followings, have you worked with clients that have smaller followings? And then how do you kind of like, if so, how do you pitch them out to these bigger outlets?
It depends. So yeah, I have. I worked with this Black USA really isn't a big like a big organization, but they are, but they're not. But actually on the flip side of that, I work with a girl who has her own she has a eyelash washing machine, like a little small.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny as hell.
Right now.
Yeah, she has one of those type of things, and I work with her, and it just depends. Like believe it or not, before working with Selena, I had a lot of clients who were like unknown. Like I worked with a guy who was in the military. I worked with a lady who was a nurse. She was like, and not to say the average nurse, but she was a regular nurse. She wasn't like top. I mean, she was top board certified, but she wasn't like a big star or nothing. Like she was an average nurse. I think the thing is not necessarily the person. It could be big or small. It's really the story that person has and how you can pitch them or how you can tell a story to the media to get a person to want to talk about them in their journey. I work with I'm not gonna say no names, but I work with people who have not been big to now working with the celebrity that's well known in the media. And believe it or not, it's still a struggle daily to get a job because a journalist ultimately has to feel like this is a good fit. I still get told no all the time. There are times where I've had gotten more yeses for the people that I work with who I really don't promote as much as I need to than I've gotten for Selena. So it's one of those things where like it's not necessarily the person, it's just the story that you tell and how you can captivate them and their audience. And if it's even a good fit for that audience.
So I do have to say this because I've seen it in so many groups and it's kind of like disheartening, but I do understand where it comes from. We know that a lot of our Black owned outlets or even our newer Black personalities, sometimes their following is not as big as, your Good Morning Americas or these other outlets. How do you go about those outlets when they pitch themselves to some of your clients that have a bigger following? Because I don't know. It was this one time I was in a group. I'm not gonna name the person. It was an artist who I will say, in regards to them being an artist, they were newer, but because they had a big social media following prior, they were well known. They were pitching them, they were doing PR for them and they were pitching them um, in a group that was like basically, all Black media people and everything. But they requested that, guys, hey, don't pitch to us if you don't have this many followers and this many, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, the individual you're dealing with is Black. Does she know this? Like, because these are Black outlets and it's like we can only get big if we get bigger names as well. I mean, you can get big without per se having celebrities and all that other kind of stuff, but I just felt like, wow, this is kind of like not okay. How are they supposed to progress?
So here's the interesting thing about this, and it's really crazy because I'm about to write another article soon. And the article kind of still based itself off of that. However, I was going to talk about when these like Black influencers, celebrities or whatever, end up having gender reveals, end up getting married. I'm gonna need for them to start giving those exclusive photos to Essence or to Ebony or to Jet. or to these outlets because y'all are giving the money and the following to these big white counterparts who can give a damn about you, to be honest. The same way they'll promote you doing well, if you have a drug scandal or something like that, they will drag you through the mud.
Thank you.
And if you say you want our black outlets and our black media to get the attention and the fame and the ad dollars, that's really what's keeping these companies afloat, is the advertising and the sponsorship. Give these photos exclusives to them.
Thank you.
You know, and it's crazy. And me being in PR, I see it on a day. Let me tell you something. I can go and give you stories. There are, especially being on a red carpet, you talking about something not getting an interview. How about all the black publications are pushed to the back of the carpet and barely on the carpet, can barely even get on the red of the carpet. But you got the white ones all in the front, all presented and positioned nicely, but the black ones, they can barely get a wave or anything from this talent. I've seen it with my own eyes, and it was disheartening because it's like people have traveled to do this, and it's not there. Like y'all will go to these outlets and these artists and these black people and these black. Let's be real, it's these smaller outlets who probably get the exclusive, or who really make a lot of the things that are big in media trendy, to be honest. But y'all don't respect them the same as you respect a bigger conglomerate. So I don't like it one bit. I don't. As a publicist, I'll say this. It's true. It happens in the industry. It does. You know, I deal with it. You know, there are a lot of smaller outlets who reach out to me to want to interview Selena. I was doing a lot of work with Meta World Peace. A lot of people don't know that. When I was working with him at one point, there were people for the association, people wanted to interview him, and they were like smaller sports related shows. And ultimately, there were some who I gave the opportunity to, because you can be a small outlet today, but they can be huge. It literally takes one viral moment for them to be a no-name, to being someone that everyone wants to go to, or their publicists and stuff to send their information to. For me, I have to be transparent with a lot of outlets. That's one thing that's different about me being a publicist than most other publicists. I'm straight up. When I ask people, I tell them, listen, I'm looking for A or B list media. I don't just say I'm looking for all media, because I don't want to give you an expectation of, oh yeah, I'm gonna reach out to her, I'm gonna see if you can do it or not, and then not respond to you. I tell you, look, my client only looking for high level media right now. You know, I may not, or just position it. Like, I may not be able to get you this person, but let me see. I got another client on my roster that may be a better fit. Let me try to at least get you an interview.
Yeah.
It just depends. It is disheartening though, and I see it a lot. Actually, I see it a lot.
And it's like, I understand the game, because at the end of the day, it's like your artist, at the end of the day, artists can help another platform be bigger, but you want your artist, if your artist is promoting a project, you want them to be gaining something from it as well. So I definitely understand it, but it's just like, when you know, as a black person, like, stuff is just a little harder for us. It's
a lot harder because we don't get the opportunities like these journalists or these podcasters. We don't get the opportunity. Like, I mean, thank God now we're in a new age where like a lot of black podcasts and stuff, and like black media is getting a little bit more like, not to say relevant, but it's getting more seen on social media. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we are starting our own stuff, but let's be honest, you know, we're still not getting the same as our mediocre counterpart, you know, that's not doing half as much work as we do, but they're getting the $1 million deals or the Spotify and Apple deals. They're getting all that stuff. And we're doing, if not the most work, you know, but we get the grunt of it, and it sucks, you know. And I think as a publicist, I can say in the communications field, we have to do a better job of trying to at least, I mean, I'm not going to say every artist is going to work with like a small outlet, but at least having some barrier to say, okay, if we're getting high level media, let's try to reach back and pull up. Or if we're going to do an exclusive or something, I'm the way I am right now. I'm like, listen, if I end up working with someone else, if my client has an exclusive or exclusive interview, why not give it to a small black company? Like, why not? Mm-hmm. If it's going to go viral, it's going to go viral regardless. So it's like, why not?
And I definitely can say, at least, like, I get it. Y'all go to all the bigger outlets. At least, you know, if you can pull in one of the smaller black outlets, like, and it don't even have to be it don't have to be small. It can be on a major, but like smaller scale, because it's needed. Especially, okay, we can take it back to 106 in Park. Mm-hmm. 106 in Park was our staple for pop culture or black culture, whatever, the culture, period. So not having 106 in Park, I definitely think that changed a lot of stuff. And it's like, before we had a little bit more of a variety. Now people look at like, oh, we have Breakfast Club, and then, you know, people are against Breakfast Club for all of these reasons, and then people against the Shade Room for all of these reasons. And I'm like, honestly, keep the Shade Room, keep Breakfast Club. We just need more variety. That's really.
I think we do need more variety. I think, but outside of variety, I'll say this. I mean, back then you only had 106 in Park. You had Rap City at one point that came on. There were so many different things. I think outside of the variety, I think there aren't a lot of people pulling people up to be a part of those conversations. Let's be real. There aren't that many people who and I was just saying this the other day, like, we don't have a P. Diddy in the 2000s of the 2020s or 2010s. Like, we don't. We don't have an Oprah Winfrey. Like, we don't. Like, let's be real. Like, who is the next Oprah Winfrey? Who is the next P. Diddy? Who is the next, I don't know, Timberland? Like, when you think about it, who is the next? Like, when you think about people from the 90s who have built themselves to be where they are now, who was the person that was passed the baton? Like, there aren't that many people. When you look at the journalistic approach, who's the next Oprah Winfrey?
I'm up here trying to think, and I'll say this. Do I follow journalists as closely as I should? Probably not.
I do.
I was like, my closest bet, like, as far as that I can feel I can cover all sources of news, pop culture, as well as like hard hitting news. As far as like a newer generation, I would probably say Gia Peppers at this moment. That's my person right now. As far as journalism, I know that she actually studied journalism as well. And I've seen her report on hardcore news, and I've seen her report on pop culture. So I would put her in the running. I ain't saying she Oprah, but as far as like a Black woman or a Black person, that's who I see. Because even though, like, we can talk about Mark Lamont Hill, but I still don't feel like he's part of the newer generation.
No, he's not. He's been out for a while.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, we see him, but I still don't feel like he's even like Nina Parker. I feel like she's starting to really elevate, but I don't know if I really.
But Nina has been on since, like, Nina. People forget that she was on TMZ. You know, she started.
No, I agree. That's why I don't really think she's the newer generation.
No, she's been out since like 06, 05. It's just because of Love and Hip Hop, people knew about her. But I remember being in middle school and high school watching her on TMZ. She was like, you know, when they had the episodes and they talking and doing commentary, she was her. That was her. Before Van Lathan, that was her. Before it was him. So, but when you think about it, I don't really see, like, I mean, you don't have, like, even looking like the Black label, like, you don't. So in journalism, there are people who are doing their thing. There are people who are really doing their thing and can probably, if given the opportunity, I'm gonna be real with you, that can probably, if given the opportunity to break some of these exclusives or to have that interview with this artist or celebrity that may be in the news, if given the opportunity, they would kill it, but they're not. Because the mindset is telling us, I gotta go to entertainment news. I gotta go to People. I gotta go to these bigger outlets instead of saying, I can go to TV One, I can go to the Breakfast Club, I can go to Black News Channel. You can do the same exact thing. I think we're programmed to think, and even so much as me being a publicist, a lot of times it's indoctrinated into us. It's like, you know, why can't we shift the narrative and say, for my client, or let me start a movement to say all of my press and all of my things would be totally Black. You don't see that. Usually it's like, for the big exclusive, I'm gonna do my high level, then I'm gonna trickle down to my lower level or to our outlets, and then that's it. You know, so which is why I'm writing that article. I'm writing it now. I'm actually trying to do it for Wall Street Journal. But yeah, like, if we have these exclusives or these baby reveals, and when people get engaged and get married or whatever, give it to Essence. Give it the same. You literally give it to them too. You know, we need these because our publications are really dying. They are.
And it sucks. Like,
they're dying. They're struggling to keep, especially with COVID. They are really struggling right now to really withhold and stay in our industries. I mean, you got the Shade Room, which a lot of people have their comments about that, but I have my own views about it. But I will say this, you know, when you think about entertainment or news, it really drives the culture of what people are talking about.
People choose to feed into what they feed into. You could easily not go in the shade room and feed into whatever they're talking about. That's just like everybody having a field day with this Real Housewives portion stuff. Y'all could choose not to tweet about it if you want to, but y'all choosing to tweet about it. So y'all not no better. You're promoting the same, situation. That's why when people say certain stuff, I'm like, y'all like this kind of messy stuff too.
Yeah, we're a generation built on mess. Let's be real. Our culture right now is based off of mess because of reality TV. Everyone wants to know the end of what people got going on. People want to have the last laugh on people, and that's just the way of the end of life right now. So the shade room really is just the ultimate look of how we as people are within ourselves, to be honest. Because it ain't nothing but to unfollow the shade room, a baller alert, and just be like, I ain't about to listen to that. I ain't about to. No, but we're not going. They're not going to.
So with this new wave of journalism or lack of journalism, we can call it in certain cases. We have artists or have you ever been placed in a situation where you and your client have discussed like the talking points and everything like that, giving it to the outlet, and the outlet just, I don't know. One of my examples of this is, I know this is old, but August Alsina, 106 in Park, Trece songs beef. August Alsina said he wouldn't talk about no Trece songs.
Oh, I've been there, and the journalist would still ask it. Oh, let me tell you. So there are times in PR where like I'm just cool, calm, and collective, and there are times where it's like, okay, it's work time at this point. Because sometimes some people, and be real with you, you can literally get, the way I work, I give people talking points. I give them detailed, like, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is what we're not going to talk about. They will literally just skip over all that and be like, well, we're going to do this and this. And I had to tell them no. I had to remember I was in a morning show one time. Yeah, and I literally, usually when I go to like morning shows, go to radio shows, I always ask them, did you get my talking points? They were like, yeah, I got them. Okay, I said, is that cool? They said, yeah, we was on a radio show one time. I'm not gonna say the client name. We was on a radio show. The producer starts to say, well, we're gonna pivot after the break and talk about this and this. And I'm like, no, we're not, because this is what we talk about. We did not talk about this. And I tell my client, if they talk about something that we're not supposed to talk about, and I tell them we're not talking about this, we're leaving. Like, we're not. Sometimes you have to be stern. Because I've been through that a couple times. You literally give them everything you want to talk about, and I'm gonna be real with you. Not even just that. You can get them a picture with the picture that they want to promote, and they will find some other horrible picture that they want to put on their website. Like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I done seen some pictures, and I'm like, now
I did not approve that.
Copywriting or what? Because y'all could have asked them to send a selfie, not this now.
So it's true, you have some people who you literally give them everything you want to talk about to verify, make sure it's clear and concise, and they will still ask certain questions. Now, depending on the outlet and depending on who the person is and if it's timely, they may ask for this. Like, case in point, working with Wendy, I already knew point blank they were going to ask about R. Kelly. I knew that. I already knew that. There was no doubt in my mind. I'm like, I would be a fool to sit and think, even if we say no R. Kelly, that she's not going to ask that. So what I did was, okay, we know they're going to ask about this. Let's give you 2 or 3 different scenarios to kind of find ways to pivot off of that. Now, Selena's a pretty smart woman anyway, so she know how to do it. But what if you're an average person who's never had media training and who's never been in a position where it's like, how do I swift and sway away from what you're trying to ask me right now? You'll just be caught in it. And it's hard being in front of the camera, period. In interviewing. So imagine you trying to like not be nervous during an interview and then be asked a hard question. It's hard. It's really hard.
Especially in this, I don't know, I consider a lot of stuff like fake cancel culture, just because people say that people are canceled, but you're not holding true to what you're stating. If you're gonna cancel somebody, y'all need to cancel them fully. Don't be fake canceling them. Like, if y'all gonna say this, then y'all need to, really do that. And that's why I don't subscribe to cancel culture. Like, I'm not going to make a big statement and saying I'm canceling a person. If I choose not to subscribe to whatever they have going on anymore, then I choose not to. I'm not going to make an announcement about it, as far as, But I definitely think it's very interesting how a lot of outlets do still go against the grain. And just even in particular cases, like, if you were to have a client that had a big kind of like situation going on, Okay, I'll use Chris Brown for example. I know Chris Brown. Chris Brown ain't gonna probably listen to this anyway. But you know, with the situation that Chris Brown had, I've always said that I feel like even though it was 2 years later, I felt like it was too early for him to have gone on Good Morning America with Robin Roberts.
I agree.
Because that just turned into a, and I don't know if he had talking points or whatever, but she kept aiming at that question in regards to Rihanna.
Well, if it were me personally, if it were my, I'll be honest with you, if Chris Brown was my client around that time, I would not have, because see, the thing about it is, as a publicist, you can't control. Well, let me not say that. When you're doing a like a show like that, usually that's live. Well, that was back then. That was pre-recorded, I think. So that was like, I don't even think that was a live interview. I think they recorded and then they aired it. But when things like that happen, you really can't control because you don't know where they're going to ask. And let's be honest, Robin Roberts is like a really, she's a journalist, so she's going to ask that question. It was timely, even though it was 2 years later. Like, we're like a decades past, and people are still talking about that situation. He's not gonna never let it live down. If it were me personally, and I were his representative at that time, Today's Show was a big platform. I would have just switched it. I would have probably changed the narrative and speak more on mental health, or to give more of a story on the back ending of his mom and like what his mom had to go through and what he did with. There are many ways he could have pivoted through that. I think the thing is Chris Brown was young. Yeah. And he didn't understand how the industry works and how TV works. So there's a lot of ways, because I like what I do in my real life. Like I look at like, and because I'm in PR, I hate to say it, but my brain thinks so differently compared with the average person. So I look at like when people get in media troubles and stuff like that, I look at shit like that on YouTube all the time. Because one day I'm going to have a client I know that's going to get into some shit. Mm-hmm. And I need to be ready. Like, I need to be on guard. Like, okay, this person got into some shit. How do I need to get out of it? Like, I really want to be a crisis communicator because I really want to like help people in the atmosphere. But if you don't have that type of mindset, you don't really know how to swivel out of it. And I think because he was young and at that time he was being pegged as like aggressive or mean. Yeah. Especially with like Karuchi and them type of people. Like, he was really like going through it. I think they played off of that, and I think they knew what his triggers were. So maybe instead of him being mad, he could have just switched it and said, you know, I'm young, I'm in the industry, you know, I made a mistake, and this is what my upbringing was that kind of maybe influenced that. There are different ways he could have went about it. I think the thing is, it's all about who you work with. And you have some people in PR who are just about a check, who are like, well, let me just get you the interview and not really help you groom and get through it. Versus you have some who are like, okay, this is who you're sitting with and you're talking to. I want to kind of help walk you through that and kind of, you know, and deal with it.
Because I just felt like you say, he was young.
He was very young.
I just felt like it was just too new of a situation to really, it was, even though it was 2 years, he wasn't ready, and it was going to be brought up. And even though he was there promoting a new album, it was going to be brought up. But I do want to say, Leon, thank you so much for coming on Ain't No Filter. And like I always do have to ask on every episode, what's some piece of advice, it can be about PR or anything in life, that you want to give to some other individuals?
The piece of advice I would give to people, I always believe in the art of seizing an opportunity when you have one that's presented. So my way into PR was very non-conventional. I didn't have the typical apply online for an internship. And even then in life, like, I don't believe in being content. So my piece of advice I will always tell people, and this is people who reach out to me from CAU and just in general, they always ask me, well, how did you get this opportunity to do this? How did you get this to do this? How are you doing this? And I tell people all the time, I'm not lazy, I'm not content. So I always will find a way to reinvent myself, and I will always find a way to find an opportunity, and it always stays true to who I am. I think the best thing people can do is you have to understand what is it you want to do, and understand that you're going to be told no a lot. You're going to be told no a lot. You're going to be probably not get a response, or if you don't have the big following or the big, people know you, they're not probably going to fuck with you like that. I'm gonna be real with you. They're not. But at the same time, don't let the industry or people that aren't you not in those particular places prevent you from carving a name and a niche for yourself. I will always say to try finding ways of reinventing yourself. I would say find ways of collaborating with people, or just really do your own shit. Believe it or not, I could tell you right now, just off. I haven't really promoted or even talked about it right now, but I'm in talks of like having not a digital series, but there are people who want me to do a lot of more videos and stuff. Like I did the PR video I did in February. There are people that want to do that video. Now, that wasn't something that anyone told me to do. I did it on my own. I funded it on my own, created it on my own, came up with the concept on my own. And most publicists don't do stuff like that. Let's be real, they don't do stuff like that. They just worry about the client. But it's like, there's so many, like, who's to say that you have to be a cookie cutter image as the next person is doing? So my advice would just be to not be content, to find a way to always put yourself out there within what the next person is doing. And I guarantee you, if you do the work, people will pay attention. They will eventually.
Okay. And that's some sound advice. All I'm gonna say is, just do you. And that's another episode of Ain't No Filter. And thank you all for tuning in.